Power-ups have always been an essential and iconic part of every Mario game. I mean, what's Mario without power-ups? These iconic veggies will boost you in power, give you a cool ability, or just make you stronger overall, so it's clear you should go out of your way to get any and all power-ups. Right? Well, it turns out not every power-up is quite so super, and there are some that are more of a hindrance than an upgrade. And here are some of them power-ups. Now, there are some rules to qualify being on this list. My definition of a power-up is something, upon being made contact with, will disappear and change the form of Mario. So, companions, accessories, vehicles, and any other type of miscellaneous items will not be featured on this list. Poison and rotten mushrooms won't be on this list either, because they aren't really power-ups if they damage you. Well, with all out of the way, I'm Coffee V, and it's time for the super original and never before done top 5 worst Mario power-ups. Number 5. What's the funniest thing about being able to play a Mario game? How about, actually being able to play the game? In at number 5, we have the P-Wing. And before you start complaining and going, "What? The P-Wing for Mario Bros. 3? That power-up is awesome!" I'm not talking about that P-Wing, I'm talking about this P-Wing. In Super Mario 3D Land, if you die 5 times in a level, the game will spawn a white Tanuki suit block, which can permanently make you invincible for the rest of the level. That's already bad enough, but what if it wasn't enough? What if some absolute troglodyte was playing and the huge task of simply beating a 3D Land level, even whilst invincible, was just too much? Well, Nintendo already thought about that. After dying 10 times in a single level, the game will spawn a P-Wing block, and what this thing does is teleport you directly till end of the level. Because screw buying a game to actually play it, am I right? Okay, sure, so technically this is the most busted and overpowered power-up there is, and it really doesn't even qualify for this list since it doesn't even change Mario's form. But I really feel the need to speak up about this power-up and just help with power-ups in general. Oh, boo-hoo! This level in arguably the easiest and most simple Mario game is just too much to overcome. Oh, whatever will I do? Even the next game in the series, 3D World, while it still has the white Tanuki suit after dying 5 times in a level, it no longer has the P-Wing. So, they even knew it was bad. But fine, again, it's technically not a quote-unquote bad power-up, so it can stay at number 5. But to me, all this power-up does is mark the centre of Nintendo's Dark Age era of hand-holding. Number 4. The Fire Flower is kinda unappreciated, especially in 2D games. Being able to shoot fireballs towards enemies is actually kinda OP, considering most just die in one hit. But if you're one of those people who still aren't convinced, there's a power-up that'll give you a whole new appreciation for the Fire Flower. In at number 4, we have the Super Ball Flower. And instead of shooting fireballs, it shoots, super balls? What? These projectiles bounce all over the place, and very rarely even hit their mark. In an open level, you might as well not even have one, because when you shoot, it'll just bounce upwards and off the screen. Now, if it could bounce down off the top of the screen, that'd be a different story, but no, it just floats away, never to be seen again. And even in caved levels it's bad, because it just bounces away from your intended target. And you can only have one projectile on screen at a time, so when you do inevitably miss, you have to wait an entire era just to fire another one. This power-up also made a comeback in Mario Maker 2, where it's just as bad. Every level built around this thing all feels the same, and the power-up itself still retains its old flaws of only being able to shoot one projectile, and still having to wait for it to disappear. Bet that Fire Flower's not looking so bad anymore, huh? Number 3. The power-ups that allow you to fly are some of the best in the entire series. Getting a Tanuki Leaf or a Super Cape is one of the best feelings you can have in all of Mario. You know what isn't a good feeling? Hitting a block and seeing this. In at number 3, we actually have a tie between the P-Balloon and the Power Flower. since they're basically the same thing. What does a pea balloon do, you ask? Well, it inflates Mario to an enormous degree and lets you slowly float around for a few seconds before wearing off. Note that this is the version in Mario World that I'm talking about, because the pea balloon actually got into Mario Maker 2. But unlike the Super Ball, it actually got a rework, and is even pretty good and fun to use in this game. But the Mario World version, as you can see on the screen right now, is bad. And then there's the Power Flower. This is basically the pea balloon, but in 3D games. Well, it only appeared in one game, that being Mario 64 DS. So this is how you create a remake of one of the best games there is, by making Mario's fat ass take up half the screen as he slowly floats to where you need to go. I know some power-ups are meant to make you grow, but I didn't think like this. Number 2. Platforming can be tricky at times, and if you're not careful, you can easily fall off a stage. Luckily, we have power-ups to make that platforming just a tad bit easier. Surely it's not like there's a power-up that is specifically designed to make platforming harder, right? In at number 2, we have the Spring Mushroom. I feel like the origin of this power-up started off as some employees joking around, but then some other employees overheard and actually took it seriously. It's like, hey guys, listen to this. What if we make a power-up that traps Mario in a spring and make it control horribly as a player helplessly bounces around the place like a beach ball? What an absolute joke this thing is. Number 1. Well, as bad as the last one was, at least it kinda helps out in some scenarios. I guess even the worst power-ups still have some viability. Wait a minute, what's that thing over there? In at number 1, we have the Mini Mushroom. This power-up literally goes against everything a power-up should be. The game has clearly established that being big is good and being small is bad. Then along comes this small blue thing, which makes you even smaller and weaker than ever. Is this thing an enemy? You'd think. Unlike the other power-ups on this list, where they may have just at least one pro amongst the many cons, the Mini Mushroom has nothing. It's like your body just gets filled with dread when you hit a block and see a Mini Mushroom slowly emerge. While you can avoid it, if you're going for 100% completion, seeing a Mini Mushroom in a stage just tells you that there's a secret in this level and it can only be found with this thing. That's all this thing is, it's only used for secrets. It's an artificial way of making getting to the secret a bit harder because it's required to use this god-awful thing. And when you go into a Toad house only to leave with a Mini Mushroom, it's one of the most disheartening things ever. The Mini Mushroom literally replaces your current item in reserve if you have one. It would be a bit better to get nothing, at least you'll still have your Fire Flower, but now you're stuck with this. This is hands down the worst Mario power-up to ever exist. And that's my list. Is there any of these power-ups you think don't deserve to be here? Or is there any power-ups I didn't cover you think do deserve to be here? Be sure to let me know, and thank you for watching.